Okay, I'm going to show you how to extract your file and print your pattern out successfully. So if you've done this before, you probably understand a lot of this stuff, but there's always new people doing this, so let's go through it real quickly. Depending on where you get your file from, it'll come in a zip file. All sizes are included in the one zip file. Each pattern is a full-size pattern. You don't cut on the fold, in other words, and it comes in individual sizes. That way you don't have all the different lines on the page and you have to try to cut it out and stuff. So I've tried to simplify this by doing it. So anyway, I'm on Windows 10. I'm going to right click and extract my files. It gives me the auto file name. I'll just say extract, and it's opened them up. So let me get rid of my other folder here. Okay, you see here we've got our pattern number 1001. And we've got a front and back for each size 10 through size 16. So let's have a look at the size 10 front here. Okay, so you'll see here I am using the circle around the label for the page number, and it's a row and a column, basically what it is. So this is row 1, column A, and if you go to the second page, it's row 1 still, column B, so we're moving to the right. So we go to the right side by A, B, C, D, and we go down by the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. And you'll have anywhere from 9 pages to 12 pages, depending on if it's the front and the back, and if it's the size 16 or above, it's going to be 12 pages on the front plus 12 pages on the back. But anything below size 16 will be 9 pages on the front, so that'll save you a little bit of paper. And the other thing that I've done here is, and you'll see this when I do the print preview, you've got little target circles around each corner of the page with a crosshair inside the circle. This is important when it comes time to start lining everything up and taping it. So, okay, once you get your pattern open, the PDF file open, you're going to do this for the front and the back. So you're going to print 2 of them separately. So come in here, click on the print tool, and I'm using a LaserJet printer hooked up to this system. So all you want to do is make sure that it's the actual size. We don't want to do any resizing on the image. So, and some printers will say print 100%. Whatever your printer says, where it says it's not going to shrink it or fit, we don't want to do any of that. We want the actual size, and that'll keep it from formatting and changing the size of our pattern. If you have a duplex printer, which I have in this system, turn off. We don't want to print on both sides. And that is pretty much it. You can do the, especially on the inkjets, I'd go ahead and save the toner. We don't need that much ink to see these lines, and so I can click on the save toner and I can say print, and off it will go. But here you will see in the print preview I've added cut lines along the edge of the page, and the reason I've done this, I've sized each page at 7 by 10, and you can see it here, the dimensions of 7 across by 10 down. This allows me to print it really around the world. So, be it in Europe with their sizing, the A3 paper, I think it is, in the US with 8.5 by 11, it's not going to take up the whole page, and so that prevents cropping that happens when the printers and different printers do different style border cutoffs and all those kind of fun things you get into with trying to deal with everyone else's printer around the world. So this will prevent that. So anyway, come in here, you want to print all the pages, and you can also come back in later, and if you only need page 1, let's say 1 through 3, you can do that and just print 3 pages. So if you mess something up, you can come back and just print the page you need. And that is it. That should get you on with it. So anyway, do that. If you have any questions, let me know, and I'll be happy to try to help you out. But again, don't print on both sides. Don't do any sizing, and you should be good to go. All right, let's get it printed out, and then we'll go through how to cut the paper and tape it together after this. So see you there. Okay, after you've printed your pattern out, you're going to have your front pieces and your back pieces. So I want to go through real quickly here how to cut them and tape them together. And what you're going to notice is, I'm going to go ahead and, well, let me go through this first. The front pieces all the way up to size, see, it starts at 16. It divides out to where you'll have 12 pages. Anything below 16 is smaller, so you're going to have 9 pages. So you'll have 3 across and 3 down when you put it together. The back is always going to have 12 pages because the back is larger. So I'm going to go ahead and put the back aside, and we're going to do a couple of the first few pages here to show you the way I recommend putting this together. The bottom corner has a circle with a crosshair in it for assembling the pattern. So let me go to the one that will go below this, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, this is the one that's going to go below here. And as we assemble it, we're going to trim this one even here where we can overlay it even with that. We'll line up that circle with a crosshair with that to get a perfect alignment. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So let me go ahead and get started here real quickly. I've got my first roll here. I'll show you how I suggest assembling these. So I've got 1B and 1C, and this is 1A. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to cut the 1A. I'm going to cut the side of 1B, this side right here, so I can come and overlap that and line it up. And then I'll do the same thing on the C. So what I'm going to do on both of these is cut this side, and so I'll just line them up. I'm going to use my rotary cutter to make this quick and easy. You can use scissors, but I've given you cut lines on all these to show where to line your ruler up, so it makes it easier. So just line up along your cut line. Right there. Trim that page. And then we're going to trim this page next. Alright, now that we've got our 2 pages trimmed, we've got our 1A. And now we're just going to take, and you'll see how that lines up right there. And I made this little dotted line wider than what these lines are. It's 3 times the width, so you don't overlap them. You just kind of join them up and you'll be perfect. So just line everything up like that. Come down through here with your tape. Tape it down. Okay, there's one. Now we're going to do the second one. Line up all those little marks. Okay, now that we have that, we're going to do the 2A here. I'll do one of these to show you what you're going to do as you work your way down. So let me move this out of the way. We're going to cut the top of the row below so that we can overlap it with the above row. So just line up your ruler along those edges. Cut that. Then you're going to take this, and I'm not going to cut this edge because on the next one I'm going to cut the edge on the top and on the left side. That'll allow me to come up here and overlay here and line everything up. We'll do that just to show you one example, just in case. Okay, that lines up. Put my tape down. All Alright, and then I will cut on this one. I'm going to cut the top and the left side so I can overhang it. So move everything over. And once you start figuring out the rhythm of it, you can cut just about all the tops on the second row and all the left sides on the second row and do the same thing on the third row. There's the top. And there's the side. Need to cut that a little bit closer. Kind of hard to do here. I've got so many lights set up, it's kind of cross-lighting and shadowing. Okay. Just need to trim a little bit more off. There we go. Okay. Now you'll repeat this as you go across and on each row. So there's our target for our circle. It lines up there. Then we're going to line up this one down here also. And you can look at this one to give yourself a little alignment mark. There's that. Okay, I go ahead and tape across here to get everything good and stable, and then I turn over and I tape this side also. And it really makes these patterns nice and stable when you're handling them. It's much better than tissue when it's all said and done. Let me do a little bit here. I know it uses more tape, but get you one of these dispensers and hit Amazon and order you a couple of cases, and you'll have tape for enough tape to do this without any problem at all. So anyway, I take and I just kind of press it down nicely. Like so. And this one's not taped, so you can see the difference. These are stable, they'll stay together. This one will flop around a little bit on the back. It may grab a hold of something, but anyway, so you're going to do that. You're just going to keep following down. On the ones that have 4 width, you're going to repeat this. It's going to be 4 across and 4 down. Again, because the pattern gets a little bit bigger. So these are your target marks on each corner as you line things up. This is 2C. So we have 1 tells us our row, A, B, and C tells us our column, so it's A, B, C, D on the back and on the larger patterns. So that's the way you put them together, cut them up and put them together. It goes by fairly quick and easy, so I've tried to make this simple and clean by taking each pattern, separating it. You pick the size you need and put it together, and you don't have a million lines for different sizing to pay attention to, so it should make it a little bit easier on you. One of the reasons I made this, I wanted something fairly simple for beginners to sew also. This is a very quick and easy kind of pattern to put through and sew, but it teaches you some good fundamental techniques, such as how to, I'll show you how I put my elastic on the waistband. It makes it very, very easy, and a couple other simple techniques. So that's it. That shows you how to put the pattern together, and so get it taped up and get it cut out. And also, you'll notice on this pattern, I did a full-size pattern. When you're working with slinky knits, it can be hard to get it on the fold and keep it lined up. I just like full-size patterns when it comes to knits. Pattern companies will do it on the fold. The reason they do that is it saves them money when they're printing thousands of patterns. And since I do my own patterns, I always do them full size, and that way I can lay everything out on grain, get this locked down, and then just simply go around and cut it out. The other thing that I've noticed too, depending on how thick the fabric is, when you get a fold in it, it may add anywhere from 1/8 to 3/8 of an inch on that fold as it goes around. So this prevents that also. It gives you a much more true and accurate cut. Okay, that's it. Get it taped together, get everything cut out, and we'll move on. Okay, I've cut out just a small sample of the fabric that I had left over from this skirt. I'm going to show you how to do your darts very quickly here. And first thing we want to do is, this is stiletto. You can buy these. This is a Clover one, so it's a consumer version of one. And you can get these at Joann, and you can order them off Amazon. These are very helpful for when you're sewing, holding fabric down as you go under the needle so you don't get your hand involved in it. And there are all kinds of good things that they're used for. And one of them is going to be what I'm going to show you. On your darts, we're going to clip. I've got fabric underneath here that I've cut out. So there it is. And I've cut around it from here up and around the darts. So it's simulating what you're going to do. So take your stiletto down here at your point and push it through the paper. And the reason we're doing this is we're going to slip a needle through this, and we need to make sure it goes through and stays on once we pull the paper up. So pull your paper up like that to create the hole. Same thing over here at this point. Tip there. Anyway, pull it up to create the hole. So, and just take and push your stiletto through there enough to get just a nice little hole there. The reason for that is we're going to use these pins to mark where the end of the dart is, and that'll allow the head to pass through. And these are the O Dressmaker pins with a small head on them, so those work best for this. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to clip. Find my straight scissors. We're going to clip this leg of the dart where the fabric. Make sure you get your fabric when you do this, so you can go ahead and cut into the pattern. So cut right on the line with the fabric included. And you're only doing just a real small snip, just enough to mark the fabric. And make sure that my fabric got cut there. There we go. And then you'll do this edge of the dart. And again, make sure you have fabric underneath. These scissors aren't the sharpest. So I'll tell you what, let me get my better scissors. All right. So we have that leg of the dart, and then we need to clip the middle of the dart also. You'll see why once we start sewing it. So I'm going to pull my pattern up. I want to make sure I've got my 3 little clips there, that they're clearly marked. And this one over here didn't cut because of the scissors. There we go. It did that time. So you're going to do that on both of them. I'm only going to do one here. You're going to repeat this for both of them, okay? So let me show you as quickly as I can. Take your needle, put it into your fabric. And I'm holding it straight down, and then I'm pulling up on the fabric to make it go through the fabric. And you'll do that on both of them. So you'll kind of lay it sideways, and when you start pulling your fabric off, come down underneath your fabric, hold your needle in place, and then just pull the pattern, and it'll come right off since you punch that little hole in. And so what you've got here is the needle marking the point of the dart. Have a piece of thread with a double thread in through the needle, ready to go. And all you're going to do is where that mark is, you're going to put a bar tack, a mark, not a bar tack. Okay, just pull it through a little bit, come through until you have the ends there, and then you can cut your thread. And then you can pull your pin out. And that
is going to be your tailor's tack that marks your darts. So it won't come out. It's long enough where you can handle it and it'll stay marked. So do that on both of these. So again, we're going to cut showing where the left leg is, the right leg, and where the center is. And what we'll end up doing when we sew it, and I'll show you this at the sewing machine, is you're going to fold right where the center line at the top is, and right where that tack is, and then you'll take it over to your iron and you'll press this straight line down. And you also want to make sure when you're doing that these two legs that you clipped are also even. So make sure those are even, and then just kind of finger press everything down there, and then put it down on the table. Keep everything lined up, and then your tailor's tack here is marking where the tip of the dart is. And you can go ahead and leave that in for when we sew it. So you'll see that I've done this exact step when we get to the sewing machine. After I've cut out my fabric, I'll do that on both of the darts, mark them, and the tailor's tack will be in there ready to go, and that's the way we will sew our dart. So do that when you cut your pattern out before you move your pattern off of your fabric. Make sure that you come along and clip this leg, the middle, that leg, put your needle in, and then do your tailor's tack, and then you'll be ready to go. So I want to just go through that real quickly while I was here, and that way we can move on to getting this stuff sewed up. So the first thing we're going to do after we cut our fabric out, we're going to sew our darts into the back. So we'll do that next. Okay, I'm going to show you how to sew the dart. So what I've done again is I went over to the ironing board. I lined up my two clip marks here with the cut for the center line here, laid it flat, and then pressed. So good crisp straight line down through there. So there's our tailor's tack showing us where we're going to start. Now we're going to start at the tip of the dart, and I'm going to give you a tip on how to get a good straight line. We're going to use an index card. This is part of a manila folder. You can use index cards, just anything that will give you a good straight line. And the reason you need to use this is it's got to kind of go under the edge of the foot where the needle can go next to it, so you don't want anything too thick when you're doing this. So I'm going to line this up with my cut mark up here, and then with my thread down at the bottom, like so. Bring everything around. And I'm going to line my needle right up on my tailor's tack there where the tip of the dart is. So you just want to get it right at the edge of that dart and just barely catch the edge. Come on. Okay, I need to back up a little bit. Alright, that's going to get right at the tip of the dart. And hold your thread and go ahead and come forward 2 stitches on the very edge of the fabric. So there's one, and then a second one. And my stitch length is set at 2.5. So now I'm going to take and put my index card right here and line it up with my cut mark at the top, like so. So I've got the needle touching it, and I'm lined up here. So I'm going to rotate my hand wheel, get the stitches going, get everything under the foot, like so. Okay, now I'm going to sew using the edge of the card. My needle is just about going to touch it. And if it actually hits it, it's no big deal, but just try to stay right next to it, and you'll get a good straight dart line. Then back tack at the end, and there's your dart. So let's have a look and see if it's straight. That's kind of hard to see because the fabric matches so well, but there's our line right there. It's nice and straight. I can now pull my tailor's tack out, and that did its job of marking. And then what I'm going to do down here, I'm going to tie this off and just a regular knot. Okay, now we've got both of our darts sewn in, and we've pressed them to the inside. So both of them are coming to the inside. What we're going to do now is baste them in so they'll stay nice and flat when we sew the waistband on. So use about 1/4 of an inch seam, and we're going to start on the outside of each one and kind of pull it over just a little bit to keep it nice and flat as we sew this. So just come across and the back tack. Just come across like that. Okay, now we're at the serger. Got it set up for a 4-thread overlock. Edges lined up here. And if I trim anything, it'll be just a little tiny hair off of it. That's the first seam, and now I'll just repeat the same process on the second side. I won't bore you with that, but do the exact same thing on the second side. And then I'm going to press the seams open nicely, and we'll put the elastic on first and then we'll hem it next. So we'll get on with that next. Okay, got the seams all sewed up, pressed towards the back, and now we need to mark off our quarter points. So what we'll do is put the side seams together like so, and mark our front, and our back. So while keeping those seams together, flip it around. Okay, that's our back. Now we take these two marks that we just marked, put them together to get our sides. And it's going to be a little bit different because the back is bigger than the front, so it's not going to be the side seams. It's going to be a little bit beyond the side seams. So you can see there's the side seam, so our center point is just a little bit beyond it. So don't just assume that the side seam is it. Okay, there's that one. Seam back together. And mark this one. Okay, next will be the elastic, and put the elastic around your waist, stretch it out a little bit,
and mark it and then cut it. And I've got another video that shows how I sew the elastic together, so I'm not going to do that. I'll put a link in the description so you can see how I do it. But basically I just butt the edges together and I do a zigzag, and that keeps it nice and flat. So I come down it one way wide, and then I go with a little bit more narrow stitch as I go back, and that's it. And I've never had one fail doing that. So anyway, I'm going to do that. I know the measurements that I need for this, so I'm going to cut the elastic, sew the edges together, then I'm going to divide it up into quarters and mark it, and then we're going to pin it to the waistband, and we're going to sew it on. Let's see, I'm going to do a cover stitch for this, so I'm not going to use the serger to attach it. I'm going to go to the sewing machine, and I'm just going to use a home machine for this, and I'll just do a zigzag to attach the elastic on. So I'll meet you at the sewing machine after I get the elastic sewed together and get it ready, get it put on the waistband, and I'll show you how we do that next. Okay, I've divided the elastic up into quarters and matched it up where I marked the skirt. You want to put the elastic on the inside, and I'm going to start, this is the back side right here, so we'll start on this part. Now what you want to do is try to make your elastic where it doesn't quite go to the edge. So let me see if I can show you here. You want to keep it, so I can get it up, keep it about right there, and we're going to go on and off around this edge as we do our zigzag stitch. So I've got a stitch width zigzag of 6. You can do 5.5 or 5 depending on what your machine will do, and I want it nice and wide. And so I'm going to align the foot up where when it goes to the right side it's going to go just off of the edge. So I'll get my alignment mark and I can kind of see where it is in here, and I'm going to stretch this out as we sew. So let me get started here. Okay, you want to hold it and keep it tight. You don't want to stretch the fabric as much as you do, just you want to get the elastic even with the width of the waistband without stretching it too much. You can stretch it a little bit, but just don't stretch it too much. Readjust here where I'm getting close to my dart. We'll just overlap where we started just a little bit. And back up a little bit, and that's it.
Alright, we have our elastic on now. And the next thing I'm going to do is I need to put my back marker label in. So I'll sew that on. And it's just a matter of laying it right here and sewing. Here's the back marker. So I'm just going to put my label right there and just stitch it on, and then when it folds over it'll pop out the back the way it normally would. So if you don't have labels, you can use ribbon. Try to use a silk style ribbon, something smooth that won't unravel, and you can mark your back that way. So where I sewed the elastic together with my zigzag there, that's my back area. You can see from the darts. So that's where I'm going to sew it on. So I'll do that, and then we're going to fold it over and we're going to do the cover stitch. So let me get set up for that. And if you don't have a cover stitch machine, you can use a straight stitch. While you sew it, you want to stretch the material. That way when it relaxes and it stretches back out, it won't, the stitches won't pop on you. So you can use a straight stitch, and you're going to be using, it's a 1-inch elastic, but what I would do is I would line up where you want your stitch to be like this, put your seam guide down, and then you're going to turn it over and top stitch it. That way it'll look better. So you can turn it over this way, go with your seam guide, and then top stitch it down. So you'll see me do that on the cover stitch machine when I do my alignment. So let me get my label on, and then we'll do the cover stitch to lock the waistband in. Okay, I've got my label sewed on here. So it's sewed on. When it turns over, you'll be able to see the label. So what we're going to do now, we're going to turn it wrong side out. And I've measured and marked where I need to line up on the line with a piece of tape here. So now when I turn it under, we're just going to sew in a circle. So I'm going to start at the back, and what's important when you're doing this is to keep your fabric pulled around nice and tight along the seam like that. So you got to kind of manipulate it and work it in little pieces at a time as you go around. So I'm going to start right on the label. Alright, I'm lined up with the tape now. Now all I have to do is stretch it as I go around. So I'm going to just do a little bit at a time here. And again, I've got to keep it pulled nice and tight as I do this. So I'm going to raise the foot up and make sure this is good and tight first. Okay, there we go. Go ahead and get it started with the needle down. And start stretching and pulling the fabric around and keeping it lined up with the seam guide. Alright, here we go. Okay, got the needle replaced now. I'm going to go right over where I ended leave my thread tails long, so I'm pulling to the back so I can see my seams there. And we'll just get started again here. So here we go. Just about to the beginning here. And that's about 3 over it, and that should cover it. Okay, I'm at the blind hem stitch machine. Let me show you what I've done. I folded this up 2 inches. I needed a total length of 22 inches on this one, so I wanted a 2-inch hem. Now when you're doing your pattern, measure from the top down, take away 1 inch because you've got 1 inch elastic waistband, and go down however far you need to go to where your hemline is going to be, and then whatever that is, let's say it's 23 inches, you want a 2-inch hem, go 2 inches further down, and if the pattern's short, add whatever you need to put onto that. If you want a 1.5 inch or whatever, anyway, just go that length beyond your hemline and either shorten or lengthen the pattern to fit your length that you want. And since this is a it doesn't have a kick pleat or anything in it, you don't want it very much beyond your knee level. It's really designed to be worn above the knee, but based on your stride, how long your legs are and all that, you could get into a problem with if you're, if you don't have a kick pleat in it and you get a little bit too long. So just be aware of that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and do the hem on this now. You can do just a straight stitch hem around it if you want to, or use your sewing machine blind hem where you turn it under like this and do your blind hem that way, or you can hand stitch it and do a blind hem that way. So either way, the blind hems look better in the end compared to when you do a straight stitch around it. But if it's a casual skirt that you're doing, by all means feel free to do a straight stitch around it. Alright, I'm going to get it under the foot here. Start just a little bit before the side seam. Okay, I'm going to have to check my depth to make sure everything is catching. So I'm just going to hand turn it first to get it over this side seam. Then I'll take a look here in just a second. Blind hem stitches are really easy to remove. Matter of fact, if you don't end the stitch properly, it'll come right out. So that's the nice thing about it. So let me go a little ways here and we'll have a look and see how it looks. Okay, it is catching. See what I've got on the other side here. Okay, it looks a little bit tight. I'm going to back off on the tension a little bit, and I'm going to lessen the depth just a little tiny bit. Okay, there we go. All right, here we go. When I finish with this, you'll probably see some little dents, and that's easily pressed out. So, and then it becomes a truly blind hem. And I went ahead and put some
temporary tape on here to hold this nice and straight. You put it kind of in toward the middle, that way this can flop up where it does its blind hem. So if you ever get a blind hem machine, that'll be a suggestion for you. Okay, over that side seam and down one more side to the side seam and we're finished. So. You see the little dimples there? Those will press out. Thing flipped around. There we go. You can't put too much pressure on these machines. You got to kind of let it feed through and do its thing, because if you get something too tight, it won't actually grab the little bite that it needs to grab. So just kind of let it feed itself. Get the arm out. We're coming up on the end here. I'll overlap a couple of stitches. Okay, that's good. Go ahead and cut my thread, and we are done. Okay, let's have a look at what we've done here. The final length for the skirt is 23 inches from the top to the bottom. So it's actually 23 1/4. So what I did was the pattern, I added about 1/4 inch to it to get the length that I wanted out of it. And on the bottom here, I've got a full 2-inch hem. I wanted to add more weight to it. So I added a little additional length for that also, since before it was about 1 1/4 by default. So it's very easy on the pattern, just extend it a little bit if you wanted a little bit more of a hemline or lengthen your skirt or something. Got a blind hem in the bottom. We've interfaced the bottom so it's got a good weight to it, so it'll hang nicely. This is the back side, so we have our darts right here on the back side, and our 1-inch elastic waistband. So that's it. You should be able to, after you've sewn a couple of these, you get your pattern fitting just right. You can sew one of these up in about 30 minutes max. So it's fairly quick and easy. I know I used industrial cover stitch machine. You may not even have a cover stitch machine. If you don't, just you can use a twin needle on your machine. Test that out, or just a single stitch. I showed you at the beginning how I've done these with a single stitch in them. It depends on how much it stretches. I tend to use the cover stitch on the elastic that stretches with the material that stretches so much. So that's kind of my general rule. And that is pretty much it. So anyway, I'd suggest also have a look at the belting material. You can find it at Joann, and try using it in a waistband. I think you'll really like it. It's thicker, it's more stable, it's got real good recovery, and otherwise
grab 1-inch net elastic. They also have that at Joann, and obviously you can go on Amazon and get these materials too. And that is pretty much it. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions, and if you've bought the pattern. Appreciate your business, and that's it for now. So take care.